So establishing a trig identity. Remember, that's most often called verifying a trig identity, but in this text, they are using the word establish, so we'll establish a trig identity. First thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take this piece up here. I'm going to use my negative formulas or even odd properties and know that, right, the rule that I'm using is that sine of negative theta is equal to what? Negative sine of theta. So I'm going to take that as a fact, and I'm going to take this negative sine theta squared. Also, what do we know about this? What's the rule for cosine? Cosine of negative theta is equal to what? Just cosine of theta, and we just described why that's true. So minus cosine theta squared, just to keep everything together. Anything? What about down here? Yeah, negative sine theta using the negative formulas right here, right? Minus cosine just theta using this negative formula right here, right? So far, are we good? And remember that we can't touch the right-hand side, so it has to be equal to cosine theta minus sine theta. So this is what I'm going to do here. When I square this, the negative sign goes away, doesn't it? So we'll get sine squared theta. Remember, sine theta times sine theta is sine squared theta minus cosine squared theta all over negative sine theta minus cosine theta. Cecilia, I think this is where it gets helpful. I'm going to write this piece out here one more time, and then I'm going to stop writing it so I can just continue the work, if that's okay. Here, how does this factor? What is this pattern right here? Anybody see this pattern? What is it? Yeah, good. Difference of squares, DOS, right? This is difference of squares, so we can write sine theta plus cosine theta, right? Times sine theta minus cosine theta. And it doesn't look right now like we're getting anything, but we are. Check this out for a second. See this negative sign here by sine and the 1 by cosine? I'm going to factor that out. So I'm going to factor out negative 1 from the denominator. And we'll get negative sine theta plus cosine theta. Mr. Rossi, this goes to the point you were making. You're like, how does it turn out to be this way? Because it looks like it wants to be the opposite, doesn't it? Because look, we're going to factor out this piece and this piece cancel, don't they? But remember, we have this negative sign down here, don't we? See this negative sign right here, Mr. Rossi? That's our salvation. Because that negative sign is a negative 1. I can bring it up here, and I can factor it through the top. So this negative 1 times that, right? And look what happens, times sine theta minus cosine theta. Remember, we had to get to this, didn't we? So I'll bring this down and see if we got there. We had cosine theta minus sine theta. Well, negative 1 times sine theta, negative sine theta. Negative 1 times positive cosine, plus cosine theta. And remember, where possible, we're supposed to have our pieces positive before negative. That's why, in this case, the order doesn't, it's just convention, so it doesn't matter a ton, but it matters some if you want to make it look the way it's supposed to look. That was not easy, was it? So what stuff did you have to recognize? Tell me the things you had to recognize here. Go back and look at it. Not first, but you're right. Difference of squares. But first, these negative formulas or even odd properties for sine and cosine, which are up at the top right-hand side of the screen. And we recognize those and quote-unquote factor those out, right? We made our adjustments there. And then what? Then difference of squares. And then lastly, that part that was kind of weird was doing what? At the right here. Right, looking for something to possibly factor out. I mean, this is getting to be above college level algebra. You know what I mean? It's definitely advanced algebra. So you have to be looking for little tiny stuff to get out. Yes? All right, good job. So Rossi, do you have anything else to say? Okay.